Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I'm from Nova Scotia in
You're
Blockhouse.
20.
Yeah, I'm 20 and I go to Bishop's University. I'm in my first year because after I graduated, I went and backpacked around Europe by myself and had an awesome adventure and got to kind of start planning that and saving up for that when I was in high school. And funny enough, really was discouraged from doing that from a lot of people. Um, it turns out whenever you're making a big choice in your life, everybody feels entitled to comment on it, whether or not they know you and whether or not they really have good advice to offer. And so, with a lot of mixed feelings, some people were really encouraging, like my mom, and then some people thought I was making a terrible mistake and I must be dumb because I wasn't going to university. And if you're going to take a gap year, everybody will tell you that you'll never go back. And I'm in university now doing a double major in international studies and psychology. And I always joke about how my gap year was just like studying for my program because I'm studying politics and culture and languages right now. And I definitely got to see a lot of that up close and personal all over Europe when I was kind of backpacking there, which was really nice, and meet a lot of incredible people and kind of see some of the things that I might be working with and some of the like countries that I might want to live in or be contributing to something there and get to know kind of different cultures. And also growing up in a really small town in Nova Scotia, you kind of like, it's definitely a bubble. You definitely are a little closed off from the rest of the world and learned a lot of things, like simple little things that I just had no idea about at all. I think I wasn't prepared for how easily you can travel through like other countries in Europe. I think Canada gives us a really distorted sense of distance. And in Europe, I went to a country for a day because I was like, well, I'll just take a ferry and go from Germany to Denmark and then just bum around in Denmark for a day and then go back. And it was kind of crazy to me. And it was definitely like this like playground where I could get to go and do all of this fun stuff. And there were definitely some really big bumps along the way. If you ask me, I'll tell you this really funny story about how I ended up in England with no money and no way to leave the airport and had to beg a taxi driver to take me to a bank so I could hopefully get money. But I just told them I didn't have it from the beginning. And the first guy got really, really mad at me and told me that he would never take someone who didn't have money and basically treated me like I was a bum on the street who shouldn't have asked him, and how dare I insult his profession like that. And the second guy was like, well, I've got kids about your age and I hope someone would help them. And he was amazing and told me all about the history of England. And then I almost got robbed when I did get to an ATM, and he came out and stopped them, which was great. He like told them to leave. So it was a wild first time in London, and and it was great. Everything about it was great, even all the bad parts, even like getting lost or not feeling like I could talk to people sometimes. That happened a lot, like in countries where I didn't speak the language. I spent a lot of time in Germany and I started trying to pick up some German. I studied it a little bit in university and definitely kind of fell in love with that country and trying to learn about it and figure out this incredibly well thought out and precise way of life. And that's so different from what I grew up with. And kind of in Nova Scotia, a lot of the international students who I knew when I was in high school kind of say we have this very relaxed lifestyle, and we kind of just take an hour in the grocery store because you talk to people, whether or not you know them, you're just chatting the whole way through, and you kind of just you just take your time. There's no rush. A lot of like, even people who are busy still like take time out of their day to like have a nice little conversation. And that just doesn't really happen in some European countries. Like in Finland, people don't really talk to each other in public, but they have this incredible culture with saunas where if you're just naked in a sauna together, then you'll just talk about anything. And that blew my mind, and I was a little afraid, to be honest. But it was kind of amazing seeing how different cultures connect and what makes people comfortable with what they're used to and what they grew up with. And for them, talking to strangers in public just isn't comfortable. You don't know those people, but there's a sense of vulnerability when you're all in saunas together, and you're also there to relax. So that kind of creates more of a community. And it was just, I loved being able to learn about all of this stuff. And I think it's so funny that so many people were like, oh, do you really want to do that? And even while I was traveling, I had a lot of people kind of criticize me, being like, oh, mom and dad are paying for it. And I just seemed like this child of rich parents who was like, they were just setting off to do whatever. And like, I completely paid for my whole trip. I planned my whole trip. I made sure that I had like the things that I needed, and I had so much help along the way. I had a lot of support from my family and friends and from people who I met while traveling, and I definitely wouldn't have made it without really nice people helping me when I got into some dumb places, which happens. It'll totally happen. And one thing my friends and I have been talking about a lot lately, and one thing I think of a lot when I think of my gap year, is that this quote that someone said, their university professor said, where anything worth doing is worth doing badly, because it's so much better than not doing it at all. And if I think about it, I could have done so much with my Europe trip differently. There were so many places I wanted to go to and didn't. I didn't go anywhere south. I went to everywhere in the UK. I went to Germany and Denmark and Finland, and I was cold the whole time. And I'm from Canada, and that just feels so silly to tell people. Like, I never went to Italy or Greece or like France, even like the south of France. So I stayed kind of up in colder climate, which I guess is more what I'm used to. But yeah, it's just funny. I was over there to like experience something completely different, and I didn't go anywhere south. And there were totally things that I wish I could have done differently. I definitely wish that I had planned a bit more, and wish that I had been able to like get out of cities a bit more. I went to a few towns because I knew a few people in them. And I did a work abroad while I was in England as well, which was amazing and super fun. But I think I stayed there a little bit too long, and I think I probably could have done a little more sightseeing in different places, and I wish I had gone hiking places. But I think that just opens up all these doors to be like, well, I missed it the first time, so let's just go again, and let's just try again. And I think that's something that's been really valuable in kind of understanding. And I think a lot of people who come right from high school don't really see how much potential they have. And like, you can steer your life however you want to. The Dr. Seuss totally knew what he was saying. You have shoes on your feet and you can go wherever you want to. And if you want to prioritize being able to like hike for 4 months through wherever, then you can make it happen. It's all about what's worth sacrificing for you and where you want to be at. And whatever that is okay. I just think sometimes we feel really held back, and it's hard to realize, especially as a young adult, that adult is still in that title and we still kind of have some freedom. Even if we don't know how to do everything, it's okay to be able to ask for help, but still completely have freedom in what you're doing. And you don't have to have all the answers, because grown-up ever does. I know that my mom totally still calls her mom and is like, I don't know how to do this thing. Like, no one's going to know how to do everything, and you're going to reach 30 and not know how to do all this stuff, and 40 and not know how to do all this stuff, and 50 and 60 and 70, and you're never going to figure out all the answers. There's so much information and knowledge and wisdom in the world, and I think the best thing you can do is just try and like soak up as much as you can and put your energy where you're passionate about. And that's a harder thing to figure out than it seems like. That's a really hard thing to figure out what you're passionate about, but you just have to try sometimes and just kind of throw yourself into whatever you want. And it's going to be great and terrible and messy, and it's going to be so worth it, whatever that is.